The evening air carried the scent of rain as Maya Rodriguez hurried down the sidewalk, her worn sneakers dodging puddles left from the afternoon shower. She glanced at her watch and picked up her pace. 6 minutes until her shift started. 6 minutes to transform from exhausted human to cheerful waitress. The neon sign of the blue plate glowed against the darkening sky. Its blue-white light a beacon she'd followed 5 nights a week for nearly 3 years. Maya pushed through the heavy glass door, the familiar sounds washing over her, clinking silverware sizzling from the kitchen, the hum of dozens of conversations mixing together like ingredients in a busy pot. Cutting it close again. "Rodriguez," called Denny, the middle-aged cook who'd worked at the blue plate longer than anyone could remember. His voice was gruff, but his eyes were kind as he slid a plate across the pass-through window. "Bus broke down," Maya said, tying her apron strings behind her back with practiced hands. "Had to walk the last 10 blocks. She stashed her bag in her locker, a tiny metal box barely big enough for her purse and the textbook she still carried everywhere, though she hadn't opened it in months. The cover read, "Music Theory and Composition," a reminder of the life she'd put on pause. "Table 6 has been asking for you specifically," said Tina, an older waitress with faded red hair and laugh lines etched deeply around her mouth. She'd taken Maya under her wing when she'd first started. "Your regular Thursday couple. The husband says nobody makes recommendations like you do." Maya smiled, feeling a small rush of pride break through her tiredness. At 26, she'd learned to find joy in the tiny victories. A good tip, a sincere compliment, the moments when this job felt like more than just a paycheck. "Tell them I'll be right out," she said, quickly checking her appearance in the small mirror hanging inside her locker door. Dark circles shadowed her eyes despite her attempts to conceal them. Double shifts were becoming her new normal since rent had gone up last month. The restaurant was busier than usual for a Thursday. A tech convention had filled the downtown hotels, bringing in crowds of out-of-towners, looking for authentic local dining experiences, as one man with thick glasses and an expensive watch had put it earlier that week. Maya moved between tables with the fluid grace of someone who had learned to navigate crowded spaces with trays of hot food. She knew exactly how to angle her body to slip between chairs pushed too far from tables, could predict when a child might suddenly jump up, had memorized which floorboards creaked and might disturb the quiet-seeking couples in the corner booth. "Maya," called a familiar voice. It was Raj, a professor at the local university who came in every Thursday with his wife, Priya. They were sitting at their usual table, already smiling at her approach. "We were hoping you'd be working tonight," Priya said. Her dark eyes sparkled as she reached out to squeeze Maya's hand in greeting. "Last week the new boy gave us terrible wine suggestions," Maya laughed. "Well, I'm here to save your taste buds tonight. The chef has a special, sea bass with a ginger lime sauce. It would go perfectly with that New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc you liked last month." For a moment, as she described the food, Maya felt the weight of her exhaustion lift. This was the part of the job she genuinely loved. The momentary connections, the chance to make someone's evening better with the right recommendation or an attentive ear. "Sold," Raj said with a decisive nod. "And we want to hear if you've given any more thought to what we talked about last time." Maya's smile faltered slightly. Last week, Raj had mentioned that the university's music department was offering evening classes with scholarship opportunities for working adults. He'd heard her humming while refilling water glasses and somehow extracted her life story. The music scholarship she'd turned down to care for her grandmother. The dreams she'd put on hold that had somehow stretched into years. "I looked at the website," she admitted, "but the application deadline is next week and I just don't think—" "Excuse me?" A new voice interrupted. "Could we get some service over here? We've been waiting for 15 minutes. Maya turned to see a man at table 12 snapping his fingers in the air. She recognized the type immediately. Expensive shirt with the sleeves rolled up just so. The air of someone used to immediate attention. "I'll be right with you, sir," she said, her customer service voice sliding back into place. To Raj and Priya, she added, "I'll put your order in right away." As she hurried to the new table, she caught sight of someone being seated in her section, a woman dining alone, dressed in a simple but clearly expensive black blazer, her dark hair cut in a sharp bob that framed an angular face. There was something different about her. She wasn't looking at her phone like most solo diners, but instead observed the restaurant with an intensity that seemed almost professional. "Welcome to the Blue Plate," Maya said. approaching the woman's table with a fresh smile. "My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." "Thank you," the woman replied, her voice carrying a hint of an accent Maya couldn't quite place. "I'm Eliza. What would you recommend for someone who's never been here before?" There was something in the way Eliza looked at her, really looked at her, that made Maya pause. Most customers looked through waitstaff, their eyes already moving to the food or their companions. But Eliza seemed to be studying her as if Maya herself were somehow interesting. "Well, that depends," Maya said, falling into the comfortable rhythm of her recommendations. "Are you in the mood for something familiar or an adventure?" "Always an adventure," Eliza replied with a small smile. For the next hour, Maya juggled her tables with practiced efficiency, refilling drinks before customers realized they were empty, remembering which guest wanted extra sauce on the side, which one had mentioned a birthday celebration. All the while, she kept finding her attention drawn to the woman eating alone, who seemed to be watching not just Maya but the entire restaurant with careful attention. When Maya brought Eliza's check, the woman looked up from her nearly empty plate. "That was possibly the best meal recommendation I've had in months." "You have good instincts." "Thank you," Maya said, surprised by the specific compliment. "I'm glad you enjoyed it." "Do you enjoy working here?" Eliza asked suddenly. The unexpected personal question caught Maya off guard. Yes, most days. The people are good and it pays the bills. But it's not what you dreamed of doing, is it?" Eliza's question was gentle but direct. Maya felt a strange urge to be honest with this stranger. Few people end up exactly where they dream of being. "True enough," Eliza nodded, signing the check with a flourish. "But some get closer than others." As Maya turned to take the signed check to the register, a commotion from the kitchen caught her attention. Denny was in a heated conversation with Rick, the manager, both of them gesturing toward the small stage in the corner of the restaurant where local musicians played on weekend evenings. "Problem?" Maya asked as she passed the server station where Tina was rolling silverware into napkins. "Tonight's singer called in sick," Tina explained. "Some throat thing. Rick is panicking because he promised the convention people live music, and they booked 30 covers based on that promise." Maya glanced at the empty stage with its lonely microphone stand and the small piano pushed against the wall. A memory flashed, her hands on piano keys, her voice filling a room much smaller than this one, her grandmother's proud smile. "Can't they just play instrumental?" Maya asked. "Apparently not. The guitar player and the bassist can't carry a show without a singer." Tina set down the silverware and gave Maya a strange look. "You know, I heard you singing in the stockroom last week. You've got a voice on you, girl." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "I was just messing around." "Well, maybe you should mess around on that stage before Rick has a heart attack. The man's about to pop a blood vessel." "No way," Maya said quickly. "I haven't performed in front of people since high school." "Suit yourself," Tina shrugged, returning to her silverware. "But if you ask me, sometimes the universe throws you little opportunities just to see if you're paying attention." Maya continued her rounds, but her eyes kept drifting to the empty stage. Her throat felt dry at the mere thought of singing in front of a restaurant full of people. She'd left that dream behind for good reasons, or at least what had seemed like good reasons at the time. As she cleared Eliza's table, she noticed the woman hadn't left yet but was watching Rick's increasingly frantic phone calls from the corner of the restaurant. "Is everything all right?" Eliza asked. "Just a small crisis. Our evening entertainment canceled at the last minute," Maya explained, stacking plates with practiced ease. Eliza tilted her head slightly. "That's unfortunate. Live music brings something special to a place like this." "Yeah," Maya agreed, surprising herself with a touch of wistfulness in her voice. "It really does." What Maya didn't know then, as she balanced plates and smiled through her exhaustion, as she mentally calculated how many more hours until she could kick off her shoes in her tiny apartment, was that this ordinary Thursday was about to become extraordinary. She didn't know that the woman sitting at table 7 watching her every move was Eliza Chen, the talent scout whose eye for undiscovered performers had launched a dozen careers. She didn't know that the crisis unfolding by the empty stage was not just Rick's problem, but her opportunity. And she certainly didn't know that by the end of the night, everything she thought about her life and her abandoned dreams would be turned upside down. The kitchen doors swung open as Rick emerged, his usually neat hair sticking up in frustrated tufts, where he'd been running his hands through it. His face was flushed, and he clutched his phone like it might somehow produce a singer, if he squeezed it hard enough. 20 minutes until the convention group arrives, he announced, to no one in particular. 20 minutes to find someone who can carry a tune, or we can kiss those 5-star reviews goodbye. Maya kept her head down, focusing intently on entering an order into the computer system. She could feel Tina's eyes on her from across the room. "Hey, Rick," Tina called out, and Maya's stomach dropped. "Didn't you say we needed someone who can sing?" Rick looked up, desperation evident in his eyes. "You know someone?" "Maya here has pipes that would put your regular singer to shame," Tina said, grinning as she walked past Maya and patted her shoulder. Maya shot her a betrayed look. "Tina, no," she whispered. But Rick was already moving toward her like a drowning man who'd just spotted a life raft.
"Maya, you can sing?"
I used to, years ago. Not professionally or anything," she stammered, feeling heat rise to her cheeks as several of her co-workers turned to look at her with newfound interest. "She's being modest," Tina interjected. "Last month I heard her in the break room singing along to the radio. Gave me goosebumps." Rick looked at Maya with an intensity that made her want to hide in the walk-in freezer. "Would you do it? Just a few songs to get us through the night? I'll pay you extra, of course." "I don't even know what songs your band plays," Maya protested. "And I haven't performed in front of people in years. The band can follow any standard," Rick interrupted. "Tom says they know hundreds of songs. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just something. Please, Maya, I'm begging here." Maya glanced around the restaurant. Several tables still needed their orders taken. The kitchen was backed up, and now everyone was looking at her expectantly, as if she held the key to saving the evening. "I have tables to serve," she said weakly. "I'll cover your section," Tina offered immediately. "You've covered for me plenty of times." Maya felt cornered. Part of her wanted to run out the back door and never look back. But another part, a part she'd tried to silence for years, stirred with excitement at the thought of singing again. Of being heard. "One song," she finally said, holding up a single finger for emphasis. "I'll do one song during my break and that's it." Rick's face broke into such profound relief that Maya almost laughed. "You're a lifesaver, truly. Go talk to Tom by the stage. He's the guy with the guitar. They'll be setting up now." With her heart hammering against her ribs, Maya handed her order pad to Tina and walked toward the small stage in the corner. Tom turned out to be a bearded man in his 40s with kind eyes and calloused fingers that spoke of years playing strings. "So you're our emergency singer?" he asked, a gentle smile softening his words. "Apparently," Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Though I should warn you, I'm seriously out of practice." Tom shrugged. "Most of our audience won't know the difference." "What do you want to sing?" "We know a lot, and I've got charts for even more." Maya thought for a moment. If she was going to do this, really do this, she wanted to sing something that mattered to her. "Do you know At Last?" "The Etta James song?" Tom's smile widened. "Classic. Good choice. Not too high, not too low, and everyone knows it. We can definitely make that work. For the next 15 minutes, while the rest of the band, a bassist named Lee and a drummer called Will, set up their equipment, Maya and Tom huddled by the small upright piano tucked against the wall. They agreed on a key that would suit her voice, and Tom played through the chord progression once while Maya hummed softly, too self-conscious to actually sing in the restaurant before her official performance. Every few minutes, she glanced anxiously toward the door, watching as the restaurant filled with people. The convention group had arrived, 15 men and women in business casual attire, clearly ready to unwind after a day of meetings. They were seated at tables directly in front of the small stage. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she helped Tina deliver drinks to her usual tables. "I can't believe I let you talk me into this," she muttered. "You'll thank me later," Tina replied confidently. "Sometimes we all need a little push to remember who we really are." At the far side of the restaurant, Maya noticed Eliza was still there, nursing what appeared to be a cup of coffee. She had moved to a table with a clearer view of the stage, which struck Maya as odd. Most people who ate alone were eager to finish and leave. 10 minutes. "Maya?" Rick called as he hurried past with menus for a new table. Maya retreated to the bathroom, where she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her dark eyes looked wider than usual, bright with a mixture of fear and something else, something that might have been excitement. She took her hair out of its practical ponytail and let it fall around her shoulders, immediately looking less like a waitress and more like someone else. Someone she used to know. You can do this, she told her reflection. It's just one song. 3 minutes of your life. When she emerged, the band was ready. Tom gave her an encouraging nod as she approached the stage, her legs feeling strangely disconnected from her body. Rick was standing by the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, his voice carrying easily over the dinner conversations. We have a special treat for you tonight. One of our very own is going to perform a song for you. Please give a warm welcome to Maya Rodriguez. A polite smattering of applause followed as Maya stepped onto the small platform that served as a stage. The microphone stand loomed before her, seeming both inviting and threatening. She adjusted it with shaking hands, acutely aware of every eye in the restaurant on her. Hi, she said softly, her voice strange and amplified through the speakers. I'm Maya. I'll be singing At Last for you tonight. She nodded to Tom, who counted in quietly, and then the band began to play. The familiar introduction washed over her, and Maya closed her eyes, letting the music pull her back to countless evenings in her grandmother's living room, singing while the old record player crackled in the background. When she opened her mouth to sing, something miraculous happened. The nervousness, the self-doubt, the years of telling herself that music was just a hobby, it all melted away. Her voice emerged strong and clear, filling the restaurant with a warmth that seemed to surprise even the band members. At last, my love has come along. The first line hung in the air like a spell, and Maya opened her eyes to see that conversations had stopped. Forks paused midway to mouths. Even the clattering from the kitchen had quieted. My lonely days are over. As she sang, Maya felt something unlock inside her, a door she'd closed years ago, creaking open again. Her voice grew more confident with each phrase, the emotion of the lyrics flowing through her as naturally as breathing. She wasn't just singing the words. She was living them, telling the story of love finally found after a long wait, and somehow, it felt like she was singing about herself, about finding a part of herself that had been missing. From the corner of her eye, she could see Denny and 2 other kitchen staff peering out from behind the swinging doors, watching her with expressions of astonishment. Tina stood by the server station, arms crossed, a satisfied smile on her face. Raj and Priya had stopped eating entirely, their faces lit with surprise and delight, and Eliza, the mysterious woman dining alone, was watching with an intensity that would have unnerved Maya if she hadn't been so caught up in the music. As the song built to its climax, Maya let her voice soar, no longer concerned about what anyone thought, no longer afraid of being heard. In that moment, she wasn't a waitress filling in during an emergency. She was exactly who she was meant to be. When the final note faded, there was a beat of complete silence, and then the restaurant erupted in applause, not the polite, obligatory kind, but enthusiastic, genuine appreciation. Several people stood up. Someone whistled. The convention group was beaming collectively as if they'd discovered her themselves. Encore, called a voice from the back. Maya looked uncertainly at Tom, who was grinning widely. We've got time for another if you want, he said quietly, leaning toward her. How about Feeling Good? Can you handle that one? Still riding the high of the moment, Maya nodded. I think I can manage it. And so one song became 2 and 2 became 3 as the audience kept calling for more. Maya moved from behind the microphone stand now, growing more comfortable with each song, her body swaying naturally with the music. She found herself smiling, laughing between songs, connecting with the audience in a way she'd forgotten was possible. For nearly 30 minutes, the Blue Plate was transformed from a casual dining restaurant into something else. A venue, a place where art was happening. Customers who had come just for dinner found themselves witness to something special, something authentic. When Maya finally announced that she needed to get back to her actual job, the disappointment from the audience was audible. Several people stopped her as she made her way from the stage, telling her how much they'd enjoyed her singing, asking if she performed regularly somewhere. That was incredible, Rick said, looking at her with new respect as she retied her apron. Seriously, Maya, I had no idea. Would you consider doing this again sometime? Maybe regularly? We could work it into your schedule. Pay you for both jobs. Maya felt dizzy from the rush of performing, from the unexpected praise, from the realization that a part of herself she'd thought was gone forever was still very much alive. Maybe? she said, uncertain but not immediately saying no, which surprised even herself. Let me think about it. As she returned to serving tables, Maya found herself moving with a new energy. The exhaustion that had weighed her down earlier seemed to have evaporated. Customers smiled at her differently now, seeing her as more than just the person who brought their food. What she didn't notice was Eliza Chen carefully taking notes on her phone, occasionally glancing up to observe Maya as she worked. She didn't see the way Eliza studied her interactions with customers, the natural grace with which she moved between tables, the genuine warmth in her smile that had nothing to do with earning tips, and she couldn't possibly have known that her ordinary Thursday shift had just become the first chapter in a story that would take her far beyond the walls of the blue plate. The next hour passed. In a blur for Maya, she moved between tables with a strange new lightness in her step, her body still humming with the afterglow of performance. Customers looked at her differently now. Some asked if she was a professional singer just working at the restaurant between gigs. Others requested songs for next time, as if her singing was now an established part of the blue plate's offerings. "You've been holding out on us," Raj said when she stopped by his table to check on him and Priya. "All this time we've been telling you about university music programs, and you never mentioned you could sing like that." Maya tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, still not used to wearing it down during her shift. "I didn't think it mattered anymore. It was just something from before." "Before what?" Priya asked gently. Maya hesitated. She rarely talked about her past, especially not with customers, but something about tonight had broken down her usual walls. "Before my grandmother got sick. Before college became too expensive. Before real life happened." Priya reached out and squeezed her hand. "Well, I think real life just got a little more interesting, don't you?" As Maya moved to her next table, she noticed Eliza was still there, now speaking on her phone while making notes on a small notebook. Their eyes met briefly across the restaurant, and Eliza gave her a slight nod that somehow felt significant. Near the kitchen, Denny gave her a playful bow as she passed. "If I'd known we had a celebrity among us, I'd have been nicer to you," he teased. "Oh, stop," Maya laughed, feeling her cheeks warm. "It was just a few songs." "Just a few songs," she says, Denny mimicked, rolling his eyes dramatically. "Girl, you silenced a room full of people who came here to eat, not listen to music. Do you know how hard that is? I've seen our regular singers struggle to get people to stop talking long enough to hear the chorus." Before Maya could respond, Rick appeared beside them, practically bouncing with excitement. "The convention group loved you. They're asking if you'll be performing tomorrow night too. I told them you might be." "Tomorrow?" Maya blinked in surprise. "I don't know, Rick. Tonight was a one-time thing." "I'll pay you extra," he said quickly, "for both jobs. And you'll keep all your tips from serving. Think about it, it could be good money." Money. The word caught Maya's attention like a hook. Her rent had gone up last month, and her grandmother's medical bills were still coming in despite the fact that she'd passed away 6 months ago. The idea of extra income was tempting, even if it meant stepping back into something she'd convinced herself was just a childish dream. "I'll think about it," she said finally, which seemed to be enough for Rick, who grinned and hurried away to deal with a party being seated. As the night wore on, the initial excitement about her performance gradually gave way to the normal rhythm of restaurant work. Maya found herself humming as she cleared tables, the melodies she'd sung earlier still flowing through her. It felt like waking up a part of herself that had been asleep for a long time. "Excuse me?" Maya turned to find Eliza standing nearby, her coat draped over one arm. Up close, Maya could see that the woman was older than she'd first appeared, perhaps in her early 40s. With fine lines around her eyes that spoke of both laughter and concentration. "Yes. Can I help you with something else?" Maya asked, automatically slipping into her server voice. "I wanted to compliment you personally on your performance," Eliza said. Her accent was subtle but present. Perhaps Chinese or Korean, Maya thought. "You have a rare quality to your voice." "Thank you," Maya replied, unsure how to respond to such a direct compliment from a stranger. "It was just an emergency fill-in." Eliza studied her with those intense eyes. Sometimes the most revealing performances are the unplanned ones. They show what's naturally there without overthinking or too much polish. Something about the way she said it with such authority made Maya curious. "Are you a musician?" A small smile touched Eliza's lips. "No, I find talent. I don't create it." She reached into her blazer pocket and produced a business card, holding it out between two fingers. My name is Eliza Chen. I'm a talent scout for Bright Star Productions. We're developing a new reality competition show called Overnight Sensation. Maya took the card reflexively, staring at it. The logo was sleek and professional, with contact information printed in crisp black letters. I don't understand. The show focuses on finding talented people working ordinary jobs, people with extraordinary abilities who haven't had their break yet. Eliza gestured around the restaurant. People like you. Maya laughed nervously, sure this was some kind of elaborate joke. She glanced around for Tina, wondering if her coworker had somehow arranged this as a follow-up to pushing her onto the stage. I'm just a waitress who used to sing in high school. That's all? That's not what I heard tonight, Eliza replied calmly. And I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know potential when I hear it. A table across the restaurant was trying to get Maya's attention. She held up one finger to them in acknowledgement before turning back to Eliza. I really need to get back to work. Of course, Eliza nodded. But keep my card. The show is holding auditions next week. We'd like you to come in. She paused, then added, it could change your life. With that, she put on her coat and walked toward the door, leaving Maya standing there with the business card still in her hand, feeling as if the ground beneath her had suddenly shifted. For the rest of her shift, Maya kept touching the card in her apron pocket, as if to reassure herself it was real. A talent scout. A reality show. The words seemed to belong to someone else's life, not hers. As the restaurant began to empty and closing time approached, Maya found herself at table 7, where Eliza had been sitting, wiping down the surface. A generous tip sat beside the credit card receipt. But there was something else too. A note written on a napkin. Your voice tells a story even when you're not singing. That's rare. Don't waste it. Maya carefully folded the napkin and slipped it into her pocket alongside the business card. You okay? Tina asked, coming up beside her with a bin for dirty dishes. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maya hesitated, then pulled out the business card to show her. That woman who was sitting here. She says she's a talent scout. For a TV show. Tina's eyes widened as she read the card. Bright Star Productions? They're legit. They did that dancing show last year. My niece was obsessed with it. She looked up at Maya with growing excitement. Are you serious? She wants you for a show? She wants me to audition, Maya corrected, still not quite believing it herself. It's probably nothing. These shows probably see hundreds of people. But she came to you. She heard you and came to you, Tina pointed out, poking Maya's shoulder for emphasis. That's different than an open call where everyone and their mother shows up. Maya shook her head, trying to stay grounded. I don't know. It seems crazy. I have a job. I have bills to pay. I can't just run off chasing some wild dream because a stranger liked my singing. Why not? Tina challenged. What's the worst that could happen? They say no, and you come back to your exciting life of serving pasta? Her voice softened. Look, I've worked here for 12 years. I like it fine. But if someone had offered me a chance at something else when I was your age, something I loved doing, I would have jumped at it. The restaurant was nearly empty now. Tom and the band were packing up their instruments. The last customers were paying their bills, and Denny was shutting down the grill for the night. Maya stood in the middle of it all, feeling strangely disconnected, as if she were watching herself from a distance. Had Eliza Chen really seen something in her that was worth discovering? Or was this just a cruel joke, getting her hopes up only to crush them again? You should do it, said a new voice. Maya turned to see Raj and Priya, who had lingered at their table longer than usual. Raj held up his phone. We looked up the show while you were busy. The auditions are next Thursday at the Westfield studio downtown. It's legitimate. We'd be happy to drive you, Priya added, if transportation is a concern. Maya felt overwhelmed by their kindness, by the way people she knew only as customers were suddenly invested in her future. I don't even know if I'd be any good. Tonight was just a fluke. No, Raj said firmly. What we heard tonight wasn't a fluke. It was talent. Raw perhaps, but undeniable. As she finally clocked out an hour later, Maya stood outside the restaurant in the cool night air, staring at the business card in her hand. The neon sign of the blue plate cast a blue-white glow over her face, the same light that had guided her here countless nights before. She thought about her tiny apartment with its leaky faucet and noisy radiator. She thought about her double shifts and aching feet. She thought about her grandmother, who had made her promise on her deathbed to stop putting your life on hold for me. And then she thought about how it felt to sing again after so long, the rush of connection, the joy that had flowed through her, the sense that she was finally in the right place doing the right thing. Maya tucked the card carefully into her wallet, alongside the folded napkin with Eliza's note. She didn't know what she was going to do yet. The practical side of her, the side that had been in charge for years, was already listing all the reasons why this was a foolish fantasy. But another part, a part that had awakened tonight, was whispering that maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. As she walked toward the bus stop, Maya began to hum softly to herself, a melody taking shape in her mind for the first time in years. Whatever she decided about the audition, something had changed tonight. She had remembered what it felt like to be seen, really seen for who she truly was. And that, she realized, was already a kind of freedom. Maya couldn't sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling where shadows from passing cars made patterns in the darkness. The business card sat on her nightstand, catching the glow from the street lamp outside her window. Overnight sensation. Even the name of the show seemed to mock her. There was nothing overnight about her journey. She had spent years studying music before life took her in a different direction. Years of lessons her grandmother had scraped together money for. Years of school choir performances and community talent shows. And then years of setting it all aside, telling herself that dreams were for people who could afford them. By the time her alarm went off at 6, Maya had barely dozed. She got ready mechanically, putting on her uniform and pulling her hair back into its practical ponytail. But as she caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror, she paused. Last night, with her hair down and her voice filling the restaurant, she'd glimpsed another version of herself, one she'd almost forgotten existed. On the bus to work, Maya finally allowed herself to look up Bright Star Productions on her phone. Sure enough, they were a legitimate company with several successful shows under their belt. Their latest project, Overnight Sensation, was indeed holding auditions the following week. The website described it as a search for hidden talent in unexpected places. There were photos of what appeared to be previous contestants, a mechanic who played classical violin, a kindergarten teacher who was secretly an incredible dancer, a bus driver with the voice of an opera singer, people like her. People with ordinary lives and extraordinary talents. The blue plate was quieter than usual when Maya arrived for her shift. Thursday nights were always busier than Friday mornings. She tied her apron and began her usual routine, trying to ignore the way her co-workers kept glancing at her, as if she might suddenly break into song again. "There she is," Rick called from the office when he spotted her. He hurried over, a hopeful expression on his face. "Have you thought about tonight? The band will be here again. They said they'd be happy to back you up." Maya hesitated. "I don't know, Rick. Just a couple of songs," he pressed. "Word got around after last night. We've had 3 times the usual number of reservations for tonight. People are asking specifically if you'll be performing." The idea that people had made reservations to hear her sing was both flattering and terrifying. "Can I think about it a little longer? I'll let you know by lunch." Rick looked like he wanted to push harder, but nodded instead. "Sure, just think about it." As Maya went about her morning duties, setting tables and refilling sugar dispensers, her mind kept returning to Eliza's card and the audition. What would it even mean if she went? Would she have to take time off work? Would she make a fool of herself in front of television producers? And if by some miracle she actually got on the show, then what? The questions piled up until Maya felt paralyzed by them. Around 10, just as the breakfast rush was winding down, the bell above the door chimed. Maya looked up from wiping a table to see Tina walking in, even though she wasn't scheduled to work until the dinner shift. "What are you doing here?" Maya asked as Tina made her way over. Tina grinned and held up a garment bag. "I brought you something." She unzipped the bag to reveal a simple but elegant black dress. "For your audition?" Maya's eyes widened. "Tina, I haven't decided if I'm going to that audition." "Well, you should," Tina said firmly. "And when you do, you'll need something to wear. This was my daughter's. She left it when she moved to Chicago. Never wears it, said I could give it away." Maya touched the fabric hesitantly. It was nicer than anything she owned. "I can't take this. You're not taking it. I'm lending it to you." Tina zipped the bag back up. "Try it on when you get home." If it doesn't fit, we'll figure something else out. The kindness of the gesture made Maya's throat tighten. Why are you doing this? Tina's usual brisk manner softened. Because some of us never got our shot, and some of us weren't brave enough to take it when it came along. She patted Maya's shoulder. Don't be like most people, honey. Most people die with their music still in them. Before Maya could respond, Tina was already heading toward the door, calling over her shoulder, I'll see you tonight, and you better be singing. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of coffee refills and breakfast orders. During a quiet moment, Maya found herself staring at her phone, her finger hovering over the number on Eliza's card. Before she could talk herself out of it, she pressed call. The phone rang 3 times before a crisp voice answered. Eliza Chen. Maya's heart jumped into her throat. Hi, this is Maya Rodriguez. From last night? At the Blue Plate restaurant? Maya, Eliza said, her tone warming slightly. I was hoping you'd call. I wanted to ask about the audition, Maya said, ducking into the break room for privacy. What exactly would it involve? It's very straightforward, Eliza explained. You'd come in, tell us a bit about yourself, and perform 2 songs of your choice. The whole process takes about 20 minutes. And this is a big if I were selected, what would that mean? Would I have to quit my job? Move somewhere? If you're selected for the show, there would be filming commitments, Eliza acknowledged. But most of it would be local, at least in the early rounds. We work with contestants' schedules as much as possible. Maya bit her lip, still uncertain. And you really think I have a chance? You're not just being nice? There was a slight pause before Eliza answered. Maya, I've been doing this job for 15 years. I don't waste my time being nice to people without talent. I heard something special in your voice last night. A rawness and authenticity that can't be taught. Will that translate to television? I don't know. That's what auditions are for, but you deserve the chance to find out. Maya leaned against the break room wall, her mind racing. Can I think about it and call you back? The auditions are next Thursday, Eliza reminded her. If you want a spot, I need to know by Monday at the latest. I'll call you before then, Maya promised. Thank you for seeing something in me. After hanging up, Maya stood in the break room for a long moment, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Then she straightened her shoulders and returned to the dining room where Rick was waiting expectantly. I'll sing tonight, she told him, but I need to choose the songs, and I want to practice with the band for at least an hour before we open for dinner. Rick's face broke into a wide grin. Absolutely. Whatever you need. He hesitated, then added, That woman who was watching you last night, she gave you her card, didn't she? Tina mentioned something about a talent scout. Maya nodded slowly. She wants me to audition for a show next week. Are you going to do it? I'm thinking about it, Maya admitted. Rick surprised her by nodding thoughtfully. You should. Don't get me wrong. I'd hate to lose my best waitress and our new star singer. But you'd be crazy not to at least try. For the rest of her shift, Maya felt like she was moving through a dream. Everything around her, the clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation, the familiar smell of coffee and fried potatoes seemed somehow distant, as if she were already beginning to leave it behind. By the time evening came, Maya had spent her break practicing with Tom and the band, selecting songs that showcased different aspects of her voice. She'd chosen Feeling Good again, along with Natural Woman, and a surprisingly soulful version of Jolene that Tom had suggested. When she stepped onto the small stage that night, the restaurant was packed. Word had spread just as Rick had said. There were even people standing near the bar waiting for tables to open up. Maya felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach, but it was different than the panic she'd felt the night before. This time she knew what she was capable of. Good evening, she said into the microphone, her voice steadier than she'd expected. For those who don't know me, my name is Maya Rodriguez. I'm usually the one refilling your water glasses. But tonight I'll be singing a few songs for you. The crowd applauded warmly, and several people who had been there the night before whooped and cheered. Maya caught sight of Raj and Priya at their usual table, beaming at her with what looked suspiciously like parental pride. As the band began to play and Maya sang the opening notes of Feeling Good, she felt that same transformation happen again, the shedding of her everyday self and the emergence of something more authentic, more alive. She sang with growing confidence, moving with the music, connecting with the audience in a way that felt both thrilling and completely natural. Between songs, she shared brief stories, about her grandmother who had loved these old classics, about how music had always been her first language. The audience hung on her words as much as her voice, and Maya realized with surprise that she was enjoying not just the singing, but the entire performance. When she finished her final song, the applause was thunderous. People stood, whistled, called for more. Maya bowed, laughing with the sheer joy of it, and promised she'd be back another night. As she stepped down from the stage to return to her serving duties, Rick intercepted her. "Take the night off," he said, pressing her regular wages into her hand. "Consider yourself officially our entertainment for tonight. The tips from the jar by the stage are yours too." Maya blinked in surprise. "But my tables." "Tina and Luis have it covered," Rick assured her. "Just enjoy the moment. You earned it." As Maya made her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and compliments, she noticed a familiar face at a corner table. Eliza had returned, this time with a man in a crisp button-down shirt who was typing rapidly on a tablet. When their eyes met, Eliza nodded almost imperceptibly. The night wound down and eventually the restaurant emptied. Maya collected the tip jar, which contained more money than she usually made in 2 shifts, and changed out of the nicer clothes she'd brought for her performance, back into her regular streetwear. As she left through the back door, she was surprised to find Eliza waiting in the parking lot, leaning against an expensive-looking car. "You were even better tonight," Eliza said without preamble, more confident. "You connected more with the audience." "It felt different," Maya admitted. "Less scary," Eliza nodded. "That's how it works. Each time gets easier until you can't remember why you were ever afraid in the first place." She straightened up from the car. "I won't waste your time, Maya. We want you for the show. You don't even need to audition. My colleague and I have seen enough." Maya stared at her, sure she'd misheard. "What?" "We want you for overnight sensation," Eliza repeated. "Your story is exactly what the show is about. Real talent hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. The waitress with the voice of an angel. It writes itself, but don't I need to audition? Go through the process like everyone else?" Eliza smiled slightly. "Maya, you've been auditioning for the past 2 nights without even realizing it. And you passed with flying colors." Maya stood frozen, trying to process what was happening. This was all moving so fast, too fast. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Eliza replied simply. "Take the chance. What do you have to lose?" In that moment, standing in the dimly lit parking lot of the Blue Plate, Maya felt the weight of every safe choice she'd ever made, every dream she'd deferred, every time she'd told herself maybe later or not for me. And suddenly, those excuses felt flimsy, inadequate in the face of this unexpected opportunity. But still, the practical voice that had guided her for years spoke up. "I have bills to pay, responsibilities. I can't just drop everything for what might be a one-time appearance on a TV show." Eliza seemed to have anticipated this objection. "The show pays a weekly stipend to all contestants, enough to cover basic living expenses. And if you advance in the competition, the amounts increase. No one's asking you to be financially reckless, Maya. We just want you to give yourself a real chance." Maya took a deep breath, feeling as if she stood at a crossroads. Behind her was the comfortable familiarity of the Blue Plate, her apartment, her routine. Ahead was something unknown, terrifying and potentially wonderful. "When would you need an answer?" she asked finally. "Soon," Eliza said. "We start filming in 3 weeks. But I think you already know your answer, don't you? I saw it in your face when you were singing tonight." And the truth was, Maya did know. Despite all her practical concerns, despite the voice of caution that had guided her for so long, she knew what her answer would be. Because for the first time in years, she had remembered what it felt like to be truly alive. 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Once Maya had made her decision, calling Eliza the very next morning with a breathless yes, everything seemed to happen at warp speed. There were contracts to sign, preliminary interviews to record, and countless forms that needed filling out. Maya had given Rick 2 weeks' notice at the Blue Plate, and though he was sad to see her go, he'd been surprisingly supportive. "Just remember us little people when you're famous," he'd joked, though his eyes had been sincere when he added, "This place will always have a spot for you if things don't work out." On her last night at the restaurant, her co-workers threw her a small party after closing. Tina had baked a cake decorated with a wobbly microphone made of frosting. Denny had presented her with a wooden spoon spray-painted gold. "Your first award," he'd said with a wink. And Raj and Priya had given her a beautiful leather-bound journal with blank sheet music pages. "For when inspiration strikes," Priya had explained, hugging her tightly. Now Maya stood in her apartment, surrounded by the scattered remains of her old life as she prepared for the new. The dress Tina had lent her hung on the back of her bedroom door. No longer a loan, but a gift after Maya had tried to return it, and Tina had refused. "Consider it my investment in your future," she'd insisted. Maya ran her fingers over the soft fabric, remembering how it had felt to wear it during her final performance at the Blue Plate. That night she'd sung her heart out, knowing it might be the last time she'd see some of these people, who had been part of her daily life for years. The crowd had been the largest yet, with people even standing outside on the sidewalk peering through the windows to watch. A knock at her door pulled her from the memory. Maya opened it to find Tina standing there with Luis, another waiter from the restaurant. "You ready?" Tina asked, peering past Maya at the suitcase standing by the couch. "Car's running downstairs." Maya nodded, suddenly unable to speak past the lump in her throat. This was really happening. She was leaving her apartment, her job, everything familiar, to step into the unknown. "Don't look so scared," Luis said, grabbing her suitcase. "You're going to be on TV, not walking to your doom." Maya laughed, grateful for his light-hearted teasing. "I know, it's just a lot. Big changes always are," Tina said wisely. "That's how you know they matter." The drive to the hotel where the show's contestants were staying felt both too long and too short. Maya watched the familiar streets of her neighborhood give way to the glossier downtown area, where everything seemed shinier, more polished, more like the world she was about to enter. "So what exactly happens now?" Louis asked from the driver's seat. "Do you all live together like on those other reality shows? Is there drama and fighting and stuff?" Maya shook her head. "Not like that. Eliza explained that we each have our own hotel room during the initial filming. It's more about the performances than the personal drama. At least that's what she told me." "Thank goodness," Tina said. "I'd hate to think of you dealing with a bunch of divas throwing temper tantrums." Maya smiled but felt a flutter of nerves. She had met a few of the other contestants during orientation last week. They had all been friendly enough, but many seemed to have more experience than she did. People who had been in bands or performed regularly at local venues. What if she was out of her depth? As if reading her mind, Tina reached over and squeezed her hand. "Stop that. I can see you doubting yourself. You belong here just as much as anyone else." The hotel came into view, a sleek, modern building with a discreet sign near the entrance indicating that it was currently closed for a private event. Production assistants with headsets and clipboards were stationed at the entrance, checking names against lists and directing people where to go. Luis pulled up to the curb, and for a moment the three of them sat in silence, the enormity of the moment sinking in. "Well," Maya said finally, "I guess this is it." "This is it," Tina echoed, turning in her seat to face Maya fully. "Listen to me. No matter what happens in there, whether you win the whole thing or get eliminated first round, you already won just by saying yes to this. Remember that?" Maya nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I will, and thank you. Both of you. For everything." Luis hopped out to get her suitcase from the trunk while Maya and Tina shared a final hug. "We'll be watching every episode," Tina promised. "The whole restaurant is planning viewing parties." The thought of her friends gathered around a television, cheering her on, gave Maya a surge of courage. She stepped out of the car, straightened her shoulders, and walked toward the entrance where a young woman with a clipboard was already calling her name. "Maya Rodriguez, we've been waiting for you. Come with me. We need to get you settled and then into hair and makeup right away. The opening sequence films in 3 hours." With a final wave to Tina and Luis, Maya followed the assistant into the hotel lobby, which had been transformed into what looked like a production hub. Cameras and lighting equipment were everywhere. People with headsets hurried back and forth, speaking in a shorthand Maya didn't yet understand. In one corner, a group of what she assumed were fellow contestants sat in a cluster, some looking nervous, others exuding confidence. "You'll be in room 718, the assistant was saying, handing Maya a keycard. "Your preliminary wardrobe options are already there. A stylist will be up in about 30 minutes to go through them with you and make final selections." It was all happening so fast. Before Maya could even process the information, She was being whisked into an elevator and deposited at her room with instructions to get settled quickly. Alone in the hotel room, which was nicer than any place she'd ever stayed, Maya sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. The room was filled with clothing racks and makeup kits. On a small desk sat a welcome packet with overnight sensation emblazoned across the top. Inside was a schedule for the next 2 weeks, an overview of the competition format, and a short biography of each contestant. Maya flipped through until she found her own photo, taken during her final night at the Blue Plate, and a description that read, Maya Rodriguez, 26, waitress turned vocal powerhouse. Discovered performing at the restaurant where she's worked for 3 years. Maya brings raw emotion and authentic soul to every note she sings. Her journey from serving tables to center stage embodies the heart of overnight sensation. Seeing her life summed up in those few sentences was surreal. Was that really how others saw her? A vocal powerhouse? The description made her sound more confident, more established than she felt. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. A woman with a bright smile and an armful of garment bags introduced herself as Zoe, the wardrobe consultant who would be working with Maya throughout the competition. Let's see what we're working with, Zoe said cheerfully, laying out outfit options across the bed. The producers want you to look like yourself. Just elevated. Still Maya, the waitress with the amazing voice, but television ready. For the next hour, Maya tried on outfits, discussed her comfort level with different styles, and began to understand that this show wasn't going to try to transform her into someone else. They wanted her story, her authenticity, just with better lighting. Another knock brought a makeup artist and hairstylist, and soon Maya was surrounded by a small team of people, all focused on preparing her for her television debut. It was overwhelming, but also strangely comforting to be in such capable hands. Are you nervous? Asked the makeup artist as she applied a foundation that somehow felt like nothing on Maya's skin. Terrified, Maya admitted. I've never done anything like this. That's what makes the show special, the woman replied. Everyone's experiencing this for the first time. The audience loves that journey. By the time they finished, Maya barely recognized herself in the mirror. The person looking back at her was still her, but somehow more polished, more camera-ready, while still maintaining the essence of who she was. Another production assistant arrived to escort her to the hotel's grand ballroom, which had been converted into the main stage for the show's opening sequence. As they walked, the assistant briefed her on what would happen. All 20 contestants will be introduced one by one. You'll each perform a short segment, about 30 seconds of your signature song. Then the host will explain the competition format, and we'll move straight into the first round performances. You'll be number 14 in the lineup. Maya nodded, trying to absorb all the information while battling the butterflies that had taken up residence in her stomach. The ballroom was transformed beyond recognition. A gleaming stage dominated one end, with sophisticated lighting rigs hanging from above. Seating for a live audience had been arranged, though the chairs were currently empty. Cameras on cranes and tracks were positioned strategically around the room. The other contestants were already gathered in a holding area to the side of the stage. Some were doing vocal warm-ups. Others were checking their appearances in compact mirrors, and a few sat quietly, looking as nervous as Maya felt. A tall woman with a sleek ponytail approached, holding a tablet. Maya Rodriguez. I'm Diane, one of the producers. Eliza has told us so much about you. She smiled warmly. Any questions before we get started? Maya had 1,000 questions, but only one made it past her lips. What if I freeze up there? What if I forget the words? Or Diane cut her off with a gentle hand on her arm. You won't, and even if you did, we can always do another take. This isn't live television yet. The live shows don't start until the field narrows to the top 10. That was somewhat reassuring. Though Maya still felt her heart racing at the thought of performing under these circumstances, so different from the cozy familiarity of the Blue Plate. Just one more thing, Diane added. Remember why Eliza chose you. It wasn't just your voice, it was your story, your journey. Don't try to be perfect. Be authentic. That's what will connect with the audience. The next hour passed in a blur as the contestants were briefed as a group, microphones were checked, and final adjustments were made to hair and makeup. And then suddenly it was happening. The audience had filed in, the lights had dimmed, and the host, a charismatic man named Andre with a dazzling smile, was welcoming everyone to the premiere of Overnight Sensation. One by one, the contestants were introduced. Maya watched from the wings as each person took their moment in the spotlight. The mechanic who played violin with grease-stained hands that moved with surprising elegance across the strings. The kindergarten teacher whose contemporary dance moves belied her quiet demeanor. The bus driver whose operatic voice filled the room without seeming to require effort. Each of them had a story. Each of them had been discovered in the midst of their ordinary lives. Each of them, like Maya, had taken a leap of faith to be here. And now, Andre's voice rang out. From the Blue Plate restaurant in downtown, please welcome waitress turned vocal sensation, Maya Rodriguez. Maya took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage, the lights momentarily blinding her. As her eyes adjusted, she could make out the audience, and there in the front row she saw familiar faces. Tina, Luis, Denny, Rick, Raj, and Priya, all of them somehow there, beaming up at her with pride and excitement. The opening notes of Feeling Good began to play, the same song that had started this entire journey. Maya closed her eyes for just a moment, thinking of her grandmother who had always believed in her, of the years spent putting her dreams aside, of the random chance that had led to Eliza Chen sitting at table 7 on a Thursday night. And then she began to sing, her voice rising clear and strong into the hushed room, carrying with it all the emotion of her journey. In that moment, standing on a stage she never could have imagined just weeks ago, Maya realized that sometimes the most extraordinary paths begin with the smallest steps, like saying yes when opportunity knocks. Even if it comes in the form of an emergency fill-in at a neighborhood restaurant, the waitress had become the highlight of the night. And no matter what happened next in the competition, Maya knew that she had already won simply by being brave enough to try.